Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Mess. So today we're going to be continuing the series on MARS FPGA. What is it? What is it teasing? What are the updates? And what's going on with the project? Because it's been a very eventful 24 hours and we're going to talk about all of it. But MARS is definitely still apparently a thing. There's been a lot more previews, a lot of news articles, and some teases on some new shells and changes in hardware. So we're going to break that down in this video, talk about what that could potentially mean for the future project, and basically just update you guys on what is going on in the world of MARS. Before I get too far involved, though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But there was an article run on a Japanese gaming blog talking about MARS FPGA being redesigned to a dual FPGA solution. MiSTer is a single FPGA. The original variation of MARS is apparently a single FPGA. Analogue Pocket is dual, and I'll explain why that is in just a moment and why it's important. But you'll see down here they talk about talking to official sources. And we have to verify whether or not that could be true, because you can read anything on the internet and you can say official sources. It doesn't really mean anything unless there's some way to independently verify that around the background. So again, we'll touch on that in just a moment. But it's not that weird that the hardware would see some revisions, and honestly going to a dual FPGA, not that big of a change. I'm sure this isn't going to be dual TI 180s. That really wouldn't bring much to the party, but a big and little design, which I'll explain to you in a bit, would make way more sense for this. Now on the independent verification section, it seems as if MARS FPGA has reposted this article, so one could assume that they are verifying that this is in fact true and they are the official source. Now I can't 100% say that for certain. Maybe they reposted it for the laughs of it all. We don't know, but it does seem to be pointing in that direction, honestly. Now if we take a look at something like Analogue Pocket, this is an FPGA device that does have two different independent FPGA chips inside of it, but one is a larger FPGA and one is a smaller. That's what I mean when I say big and little. It's just kind of a way to talk about these things. So inside the Analogue Pocket, you have the main FPGA that's going to be doing all of the heavy lifting, and then in the side you have a much smaller FPGA that can be used for many low-level things, including potentially cartridge reading, which will make sense in a bit. And if you take a look at the specs of the Analogue Pocket, you're going to see here under CPU, it's got an Altera Cyclone 5 with 49,000 logic elements, and an Altera Cyclone 10 with 15,000 logic elements. That is a big and little design. You have one large chip and a smaller helper chip, for lack of a better term, and that is kind of how that would function. Now the original MARS FPGA board we saw, we had that titanium TI 180 on the front. It really wouldn't make much logical sense, in my opinion, from a hardware design standpoint, to double up these chips 1 to 1. You'd probably just go for a larger FPGA if you're having some overhead issues. So ePhoenix does have an entire line of FPGA chips though, and it would make hardware design sense that both of these chips would prospectively be from around the same families. That way you could use the same tool set, the same SDK, and all of that. Additionally, apparently this has gone under a design revision as well from the original shell, the one that shows up in most of my thumbnails, and we'll get into the shell too, because it does seem to hint at a lot of things. The eagle-eyed among you may have already noticed what those are. You'll see here that MARS FPGA tweeted this shell out, so this is definitely something that is 100% official. They're not going to tweet these things out, even if they are trying to have a laugh. That wouldn't make much sense whatsoever. But let's take a look at the case design in and of itself, and obviously it seemed to have a swollen belly up at the top, and I'm sure you can tell already that's an Arnold Schwarzenegger joke, as well as a Nintendo 64 cartridge shape. So it seems to be that they are implying that this is going to have both a Nintendo 64 core, as well as an ability to put your original cartridges in and read them. Kind of getting some analog vibes here, both in the dual FPGA as well as the overall design concept, at least as the silhouette is concerned. This just seems to be an extension of the April Fool's post they put up showing a Nintendo 64 cartridge off to the side. But leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think the console's modeled after. And before you leave any comments about all of the different drama going on in the FPGA gaming space this week, honestly that does not interest me whatsoever. We're not going to talk about it on the channel. We're here to have fun, and I've got a life outside of these things. But honestly, Todd, you made a big mistake not modeling this after the best console of the 90s, the 3DO M2. And if you can't tell, that is 100% a joke, although if you modeled it after that, I definitely would have given it my seal of approval. Now moving on to other things, the MARS team has teased in the last 72 hours. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time has also been shown on their Twitter. Now this is another arcade board running off the Motorola 68000, and obviously that is a chip that has been utilized time and time again in different FPGA cores on the console side as well as arcade boards. This is something that's already functioning, and obviously Turtles in Time is a great game. but honestly, between you and me, the Super Nintendo version is the better of the two. I stand by that opinion, but you can disagree with me down in the comments below. So this is apparently another thing that the MARS team is trying to tease out is coming to the project, and again, they say that they're going to be showing this off in July at Too Many Games, so we'll see how that goes. But honestly, every single redesign, every single new shell concepting does take time and money, and that's the type of thing that I'm sure they want to avoid doing too many times. But honestly, getting a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles core would be a fun time, but it doesn't seem to be anything that would test the boundaries of MARS or even MiSTer FPGA. And I am curious what sort of cores you guys would want to see on a MARS project when and if it does come out, because I know a lot of people ask me about this all the time, and it is something I like to talk about. I like to kind of suss through all the different technical details, but something like a dual FPGA design wouldn't be at all required to run something like this game. I'm not saying that the design is not worth it, I'm just saying that this really isn't the heaviest punching game, although it is an absolute metric crap ton of fun, so definitely something I would want to see on any sort of FPGA core device, even if, like I said, the Super Nintendo version definitely is the one I prefer. And I'm pretty sure Krang might just be Kuato from Total Recall in a different design. Another game they teased out is Thunder Dragon. This is from NMK and is distributed by Tecmo. This is another shmup, and they've definitely been teasing out a lot of NMK games. It seems like somebody on the MARS team is a fan of this particular developer, and it's not one that you're going to hear all that often in different arcade gaming spaces. If you hear a shmup developer or an arcade developer's name mentioned, NMK probably 10 out of 10 times isn't going to appear, but they do have some fun stuff that is worth checking out, and I've loved in this game. Your life bar is just different American flags. Kind of a fun little touch there. But this is another thing that the MARS team has been teasing on their Twitter, so it's another thing that you could expect to come to MARS. But I think what a lot of people are waiting to hear now is, when does it launch, when do they see hardware, and how many of these cores are going to be available when the unit actually ships, because they've made statements like every single MiSTer FPGA core day 0, they've teased a lot of stuff. So now I think the real question is, when do we see new hardware, when do we see new specs, when do we see more games running on the FPGA in and of itself, and how many of these things are actually going to be available when they come out of the box, because that's what I'm curious about too. What is the launch library going to be? But otherwise, it's another game they've shown, and they've probably shown about 30 to 40 different arcade games at this point in time, along with 3DO, Dreamcast, Atari Jaguar, Sega Naomi, stuff such as that. And now it seems to be that they're hinting at Nintendo 64 as well. So it really remains to be seen how much of this is possible, how much of this is possible at day one, and how much can get done, because we'll go through a couple of the previous previews in just a moment. But as far as the project is concerned, it seems like it's moving forward, and I just show you guys the updates that MARS provides here, even if I am blocked by them. But as far as my opinion on whether or not this is something you should get, I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to share that opinion, I'm going to share it once, and it's not going to be in this video. But when and if the project goes up for sale and people are talking about taking their wallets out of their pockets, grabbing their credit cards and spending money, I will tell you then, based upon all of the information that I've previously seen and all the information I will see in the future, including hardware tests, what I actually think, because I'm not interested in any way, shape, or form for this project to succeed or fail. Obviously, I'd like to see everything succeed, everyone get along, and everyone have more fun and play more arcade games, because if you know me and the channel, that's all I really genuinely care about. The rest of it, not as much of interest to me, but I'll definitely buy one either way, because I'm the channel and it's just a business expense that goes on my taxes, but I am not in any way, shape, or form the $1 million man I wish I was for many different reasons. But it is interesting to see how much MARS is teasing. Obviously, the WWF core is now out on Analogue Pocket, but not on MiSTer FPGA. Maybe somebody else will port that once the source code becomes available. But the MARS team has shown off a lot of different stuff in the last few weeks after going dormant for a while. So it seems to be that they've got a new hardware design, they've got a new case design, potentially cartridge reading, as well as a lot of other games that have been teased. But that's the current situation with MARS FPGA as of today. If you have any questions, leave them down below, and I will try to answer each and every one of them as best as I can, outside of any of the other stuff going on in this space. Not really interesting, again, to me. And yes, I am very well aware that some of the CoinOp collection GitHub repos seem to be deleted, and Update All is throwing some errors on the MiSTer side, but that'll definitely get patched up within 24 hours, so I wouldn't worry too much about that from a MiSTer perspective. But maybe one day MARS will go here. The next time there's more to talk about, I'll do another video, but short of that, we are done, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.